Hello, this is Simone from Nauma. In this video, I want to show you how to run scenario analysis for between buying a home or rental. Let's get started. So in this case study, we're considering a couple in their late 30s with 2 kids. And they've saved some money. In the taxable account, there's $600,000 that can be used for, say, down payment. And they also have retirement account and some tax-free account. They don't have any real estate or liabilities at this moment. And in terms of income, they both work. The pre-tax income is $350,000. And they have a healthy net cash flow after expenses and income taxes. For the expense, they have living expense, and a good amount of them is from rental. They're renting at $5,000 per month currently. And let's run the analysis. So this is a financial projection. We have some life event already set up. That's not important at this moment because we're only comparing buying a home and rent. And for rent, we see that we're spending $5,000 as we set up month over month, and there's inflation, so it grows over years till the end of the projection. We can see this rent, that's the right bar on the top left side, that's a cash flow. And as we see, it just growing till the end of the projection. On the right side, if we keep renting, we end up with something like $18.9 million, but that's with inflation. If we do today's dollar, meaning that's the today's buying power, that means $6.6 million. One thing I want to point out is, you see there's all green bars. This green bar is liquid asset. Because we're not buying real estate, everything end up liquid. And this non-liquid before 2044, that's their retirement account. These retirement account 401k only become available when they turn 59 and a half. So around 2046, everything is liquid. And on the other end, we can buy a home. Let's see what we have before we actually compare the numbers. So in this case, I'm assuming they're buying some place at 1.5 million next January, and I set up the property tax, insurance, and maintenance cost. So let's turn this on. Once I turn on the asset, all the expenses show up at the same time. They match inflation as how it grow. And then when we buy this place, we're doing 20% down payment. That will be $300,000 on 2026. And then we have a closing cost. Assume that when we buy a home, we need to do move-in, we need to take a loan, there's some closing cost with the loan, and maybe we want to do some renovation. I put $50,000 there. And also we need to take a mortgage. So with a 1.5 million home, 20% down payment and 80% mortgage, starting the same time for 30 years. Right now, I set the mortgage rate to 6.5%. And we can see once we set the mortgage, it shows up as this pink bar over the next 30 years, paid off in 2055. And then for the next year, 2026, there's a huge cash outflow, meaning we're paying mortgage, we're paying down payment, and we're also paying like closing cost. So that's about this property we're about to buy. And if I turn that on, that will be this this green bar over the years. 2026, there's more cash outflow because we're paying down payment. And over the next 30 years, it's about the same amount. And then once I pay off all my mortgage, it gets lower because I only need to pay maintenance and the property tax. So let's see how we end up. So now we have some non-liquid asset because because of this home. And we end up with $14 million. Actually, let's focus maybe on next 30 years because they have a long projection and it gets too long in the future. Let's select till like something when they pay off the debt in 2056. In 30 years, their net worth. Let's use today's dollar for better process. So if they buy a home, they end up with $5.7 million. Among them, 1.5 is the place they buy, and 4.2 is the liquid asset. On the other hand, if you remember, if we just rent, we end up with 6.8. So that's more, in terms of net worth, in 30 years, it seems to make more sense to buy because there's like roughly a $1 million difference. But there are a lot of assumptions built into this projection. To start with, maybe some people think the mortgage can get lower, or for a certain scenario, people can have like a lower mortgage. Let's say instead of 6.5% mortgage rate, let's do a 3% mortgage rate and see how would that affect. So still like around 2056, the non-liquid asset is the same amount because we did not change that, but we're paying less mortgage. We end up with more liquid asset. That's 5.3 million. And in total, we end up with $6.9 million in 2056. Comparing with rental is 6.8, I believe. So that's slightly better than renting. Another scenario I want to show would be, instead of changing the mortgage, let's keep it where it is for now. What if this asset, I currently set the annual appreciation to 2%. That's the same as inflation. But we know some places they could grow faster, like the California, a lot of places actually grow very fast in the past 10 years. And for example, we set the annual appreciation to 5%. How would that affect my projection? Let's take a look. So still like 2056. So the liquid assets stay the same as our baseline scenario, but we do have much more in non-liquid asset because this property grow faster at 5% now. And then we end up with $7.9 million. That's like about 1 million more than if we rent. Rent is 6.8 and buy is 7.9. So that's a big difference somehow, right? So to summarize all these scenarios, 3 scenarios, I put them together in this slide. So baseline would be if I rent, I end up with 6.8 million, all liquid asset, no real estate. If I buy with 6.5% mortgage rate, 2% asset growth, I would end up with 5.7 million. That's less than rental. But if I somehow manage to get a lower mortgage rate or have a higher growth rate of my property, I would end up with more money than rental. So that's the 3 scenarios we see here. There's one more thing I want to show is about liquidity constraint. Let's go back to our scenario. So let's say cancel all the changes we have. And then rent is still the same. You see, we actually, at the end of our projection, we have something like $6 million. So they are actually quite well off. Or if I buy, I also have like some liquid asset. One thing to start thinking is, do I really need to work till 60-year-old? That's where they currently set as the retirement. By the way, this is where you see all the projection parameters like pre-retirement account growth, post-retirement growth, and inflation. That's around here in projection parameters. And what if I set early retirement? I really don't need to work till 60-year-old. What if I say I work 8 years less? I retire at 52. So the same as my spouse. Same thing. So assume they retire early. What would happen? So let's get started with rental. So clearly, like once I start retired, I don't have income. The income will stop, but I would just withdraw from my taxable account year over year until my 401k account become available, and I keep withdrawing till the end. I still end up with about $1 million left. On the other end, if we say we buy a home, there's some issues here. So same, when they retire, they start to withdraw from their taxable account. But the issue is they use some money to pay for the down payment and also use money to pay for mortgage. They are a little low on this liquid asset. And before their 401k become available, there's a couple years they don't really have any cash to cover their regular expense. There is a liquidity issue that's showing up in this purple pink color as a cash shortfall. So there's issues. If I do buy a home, I wouldn't be able to make a valid projection because I ran out of money before my 401k become available. That's one thing to pay attention. But on the other hand, if I rent, all my asset is liquid, so I'm actually doing fine. That's another thing to consider when you consider buy and rent, because rental, you always keep everything as a liquid asset, but if you buy, the real estate is considered non-liquid. So there will be some liquidity constraint showing up. All right, so that's all the scenarios we talked about today. Hope you find this useful. And if you want to, you can try to build your own projections using Nauma software. It's at Nauma AI, and you can get started with a free trial. All right, that's everything I want to share today. Hope you find this helpful. Bye.